Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating shift in corporate strategy that I recently discovered in our source material. We're moving away from the basic idea of simply doing less harm to the environment, and we're stepping into a bold new era of actively healing our world. Let's explore together how this completely redefines what corporate responsibility actually means. All right, let's set the stage here. As the source material points out, for the past 64 days, the conversation has been intensely focused on sustainability. We've spent a ton of time talking about what it means to be a sustainable business. And hey, that foundational knowledge absolutely matters. But we know the basics now, right? So what comes next? Well, the standard practices, doing less harm, reducing our emissions, cutting down on waste, managing water usage, complying with environmental regulations. These are entirely necessary. We definitely cannot skip these steps. But our source material points out something really profound. These actions fundamentally represent a defensive posture. They're all about minimizing a negative impact rather than actively creating a positive one. Which brings us to the crucial point we are exploring today, and it hinges on this single, powerful question. What if doing less harm just isn't enough anymore? I mean, this completely challenges the entire foundation of traditional corporate sustainability. It forces us to pause and ask, is merely slowing down our destructive habits truly the ultimate goal of modern business? Or are we meant to be aiming for something much, much higher? Enter the idea of the regenerative business. The definition here is just profound. The goal of business is no longer just to minimize damage. Instead, the objective is to actively restore, to regenerate, and to heal the very systems that we've previously damaged. It's a massive shift from asking, how do we do less harm, to asking a much more ambitious question. How do we actually do more good? This highlights a total mindset shift. On one side, you have sustainability. It's defensive, trying to slow the rate of decline. On the other side, you have regenerative thinking. It is generative by nature, and its explicit goal is to reverse that decline entirely. Basically, sustainability is playing defense to slow down the damage to our planet, while regenerative thinking plays offense to actively reverse it. Theory in practice, what does it look like? Let's ground this theory and see exactly how this structural shift plays out in the real world. Let's start with agriculture. A sustainable farm takes the approach of using fewer pesticides, which is great, right? It's doing less harm. But a regenerative farm actively works to rebuild the soil microbiome. The crucial difference here is the long-term outcome. Instead of just cutting chemical costs, the farmer creates an ecosystem that practically does the fertilizing for them. By rebuilding that microbiome, the regenerative farm ensures the land actually becomes more fertile over time, leaving the earth richer and more productive with every passing season. Now, what about manufacturing? A sustainable manufacturer focuses on reducing its water consumption, again, minimizing the negative footprint. But the regenerative manufacturer takes a massive leap forward by investing directly in watershed restoration, which in practice means planting native vegetation around rivers to naturally filter the water. The goal here is astonishing. This facility ensures that the water systems it relies on to operate are actually healthier after its operations than they were before. They are literally healing their own resource pipeline. And zooming out to the broader corporate level, a sustainable company typically works to offset its carbon emissions to hit a neutral baseline. But the regenerative company goes further. The ultimate goal is to evolve from merely offsetting emissions to actively sequestering, pulling down and storing more carbon than it produces. By pulling more carbon out of the atmosphere than it emits, the company transforms into a net positive contributor to the climate. It's a real game changer. The Philippine opportunity. Let's localize this concept and look at the enormous, concrete possibilities that regenerative thinking opens up for businesses operating specifically in the Philippines. This approach perfectly marries ecological restoration with core business survival. Notice how each of these ecological actions directly secures a critical business asset. Reforesting degraded uplands directly feeds and secures a company's water supply. Restoring coastal mangroves isn't just a nice gesture, it actively protects coastal facilities from devastating storm surges. Rebuilding soil health secures agricultural supply chains, and regenerating coral reefs sustains the local fishing communities and a company's host municipalities. This isn't just about saving the planet. This is about bulletproofing a business against future shocks. Beyond charity and CSR, let's look at why this represents a fundamentally different relationship with nature. It is so critical to understand that this is not about charity. This is not just another corporate social responsibility initiative tucked away in an annual report somewhere. This is core strategy. It all boils down to this one realization. A business simply cannot thrive in a degraded ecosystem. Long-term profitability absolutely requires long-term ecological health. If the natural systems that a business depends on collapse, well, the business collapses right along with them. It is literally that simple and that urgent. The data and the trends point to a really clear future. The companies that are going to survive, remain resilient, and thrive into the next generation are the ones operating as active agents of planetary healing. Long-term profitability requires ecological health. The most resilient businesses won't just mitigate their damage, they will leave the world demonstrably better than they found it. So the big takeaway here, doing less harm was only ever step one on the journey. Sustainability is where we start. It's the baseline. But regeneration is where we are going. It is the absolutely necessary evolution of commerce in a world that desperately needs to heal. I'm going to leave you to reflect on this crucial question as you evaluate your own organization's strategic future. Is your company ready to go beyond sustainability? It's a profound challenge, but as we've seen, it's also an incredible opportunity. For those wanting to dig a bit deeper, the source material notes that organizations like Sustain Peach Studio offer daily tips geared specifically toward this kind of transition for Philippine businesses. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today, and I really hope this sparks some truly regenerative thinking in your own work.